You find yourself avoiding to do the hard things. I was at a conference over the weekend, and the biggest question I heard over and over was, how do I stop procrastinating? We know the important work we need to do, but we put it off. We cross the easy things off your list. Well, if you can relate to that at all, today's conversation is for you. We're going to dive into why we procrastinate. And if you stick around to the end, I'm going to give you one tweak you can make to your to-do list to help you take more action.
As women, it's easy to feel overscheduled, overtired, and some days just over it. It's time to ditch the guilt, still get things done, and have time left for ourselves and the most important people in our lives. How do we do that? You're about to find out.
Hello and welcome to the other side of busy. I'm Jennifer Shea, your time leverage coach. I am here to help you all get more done during work hours so you can shut it off and prioritize what truly matters. We do that by talking about the latest biohacks, mindset shifts, and calendar control strategies to get you to the other side of busy. In today's conversation, we're going to talk about how you can stop procrastinating. Have you ever noticed that you tend to put off the work that you know is going to move you forward for the stuff that just feels good to do? Well, we're going to show you why we procrastinate today, give you a few strategies on how you can stop doing it. And if you stick around to the end, I'm going to share with you one change you can make to your list that will help you take more action. So let's dive in. Why do we truly procrastinate? 95% the reason we procrastinate is due to emotional resistance. Yes. We're taking the lid off of it today and getting real. Okay. You might find that you see the next thing on your list and then some fear comes up or some scarcity or something that makes you think, oh, that looks hard. Oh, that's uncomfortable. I want to do that. Let me go do this other thing that feels good to do, right? So we don't do the important work and we find ourselves scrolling social media, changing the laundry if we're working from home, or maybe going to check our email, right? All of these things give us a dopamine hit of crossing something off the list. And in theory, this feels productive, right? Well, if I can't do that hard thing, then let me just go do something, right? Because then at least I'm doing something. But in this particular case, doing something isn't doing the right work. So the something is getting in the way of the important things that you know are going to move you forward, right? I tell my clients this is doing what feels good to do versus what feels good to have done. It feels good to have finished the client proposal. It feels good to have done the work, to write the email, to do the social post, to put together the client strategy, whatever it is in your business. But what feels good to do is scroll social media, check my email, to cross one more thing off the list. But at the expense of what? Every action that we take has an opportunity cost. So for me to say yes to doing an easy thing in this moment means I'm saying no to doing all of the other things that I could be doing in this moment. One of which is that important thing you're avoiding. So why are you avoiding it? Well, if you're anything like me, you might, hopefully, after listening to this podcast, you're setting a daily big three, not a to-do list. You might look at that daily big three and think, oof, that one's hard. Don't know I fully know how to do that. Or, oh, that's going to be uncomfortable. I'm afraid they're going to say no if I make 5 client calls. And so we avoid it. Now, avoidance is emotional resistance. And that's 95% of what procrastination is. It is us avoiding the feelings that come up. So it has a lot less to do with the work itself and more to do with us. And if you're anything like me in this journey called entrepreneurship, we learn that there's so much work that needs to be done here to get out of our own way. And this is what gets in our way when we procrastinate. We feel some kind of resistance to the thing we know we should do next, to the thing we want to do next to move us forward. So rather than getting distracted by the thing that feels good to do, the busy work, the email, the scroll. What if instead you sat with the discomfort? One of the things that I heard someone say once is that the discomfort is just a sign of our growth, and we either avoid it or we lean into it. So, because you're watching this or listening, I assume you want to grow. So, you want to lean in. So, there is a level of discomfort with this business ownership thing. So, what can you do? The first step is to recognize the discomfort. So, rather than pivoting, think, ooh, something's coming up for me here. Then, rather than avoid it, we sit in it. We do something Nair Eyal calls surf the urge. Now, Nair Eyal wrote a book called Becoming Indistractable. It's a fantastic read. But one of the tools he shares in there is that rather than going to do the thing that feels good to do, what if we sat with the discomfort? What if we asked ourselves, what am I afraid of? What am I feeling here in this moment? Now, I know for some of us, that is really hard. It's so much easier to go do a thing than to go within and ask, what is my role in this? Why am I not able to do this thing I want to do? But shining a light on that fear makes it less scary. So, what do we do when we're surfing the urge? Well, we're asking, what is this fear? What is this feeling that's coming up? Why am I feeling that? Well, why am I feeling that? And asking the 10 whys to get to the bottom of it. Maybe you journal this out. If you're anything like me, you might be an overthinker. And so it's really hard to sort these things out in your brain. But when you journal it out, you might come up with more insights that you wouldn't really get the clarity on by just thinking it through. So whether you think it for a few minutes or you journal it, the idea is that you sit in this discomfort for 10 minutes. That's it, just 10. And then at the end of 10 minutes, if you still want to go do the avoiding behavior rather than do the work, then you allow yourself to go do it. The whole point of that is that cutting something out cold turkey isn't helpful. Instead, you might crave the thing. So rather, if you surf it for 10 minutes and you still want to go scroll, then go scroll, knowing that that's the thing you actually want to do, but identifying that it's not your escaping behavior. Now, what usually happens when we do this is that we discover what's really going on. I need to write that client proposal. Oh, well, I'm afraid they might say no. Oh, it's not going to be perfect. Oh, it's going to take me a long time to get it to where I want to be. What if I don't get that? What's the financial implication, right? And we spiral all because of one thing on our list. But by shining a light and surfing this urge, we can truly see the discomfort on paper. And then we can start rewriting the internal story we're telling ourselves about this thing. Because when it's in front of us and identified, it's easier to overcome. Now, like me and some of my clients, you might find in doing this exercise that you can work through things faster. It might start with you surfing the urge for 10 minutes, but then you feel like you can get through it in 5. And soon after your practice, 2 or 3 minutes, you can actually work through the urge and then get down to the work you meant to do. So, when we accept that procrastination is 95% emotional resistance, and we take this step of surfing the urge for 10 minutes, we truly can get to the real work instead of avoiding it by doing all the wrong things, but not the thing that feels good to have done. So that's your first invitation. Your second invitation to avoid procrastination is just to create an environment in which you can do the hard things. All right, I like to call this creating a focus cave, right? So if I know that I have an hour to do this work, I'm going to try to eliminate the external distraction that might pull me away from this work. That might include shutting down all of the browser tabs or turning my phone on do not disturb, right? Lighting a candle so I feel like I have a really good environment to work on, but creating an environment in which I can truly focus and avoid the distraction, avoid some of those things that could pull me away. It also helps to have some kind of pre-game routine before you get into the deep work to truly make sure your brain is able to focus and less likely to get distracted and pulled away. Okay. Michael Jordan just doesn't show up on the court and shoot some hoops. Right? He had a whole routine that he did before a game to prepare so that when buzzer started and the whistle blew and they really got started in the game, he was able to turn on his A game. And the same is true for us. We can't expect that we can just show up and do the deep work. We need to create the environment and do the practices so that when we show up to do the deep work, we can truly do it. All right, so those are the three things that I highly recommend you try to overcome procrastination. And I mentioned I'm going to share with you a tip that you can use to tweak your list to take more action. But first, let me just ask you, if you're like a lot of business owners that I know, delegation is one of the things that we struggle with. We have so many things to do, so little time, but we feel like we have to do it all. Well, the business owners I know that are succeeding and growing their businesses, experiencing the freedom that they started their business for, and loving their business without working 80 hours a week, are delegating. Now, if you're having trouble here, either letting go, maybe you've gotten burned in the past, maybe you feel like you have a team, but you can't delegate to them because their plates are full, I can help. I am the best in the world at helping you truly identify where your time is best leveraged and invested so that you can grow the business, and helping you understand what you need to let go of and giving you the permission to do so that you can focus on the things that only you can do and allow others to help you along that path. So if that's something that you're interested in, I invite you to go over to Instagram. I'm at jenna.piche, Piche. Shoot me a DM and let me know delegation. And I'll follow up with a call invitation where we can talk more about how we can unpack how delegation can truly work for you. All right, with that in mind, I promised you I would share one change you could make to your list that would help you take more action. And here it is. To-do list is not helping any of us. It's draining us. Some of us really have trouble even getting started, right? The procrastinators of us, especially. So instead of calling it a to-do list, what if you called it a to-start list? Because once we actually start an action, we can create momentum to take the next best step, and then the next best step, and then the next. So if reach out to 10 new potential clients today feels too hard to do. So, what if instead you had a to start list that might say, choose 3 prospects I want to reach out to today? And the to start is just selecting them. It's not yet writing the email, but by selecting them, it makes opening the email easier. It makes reaching out to the first and then the second and then the third easier because when we create momentum of action, more action comes. So I invite you, for so many reasons, to throw away the to do list. And if taking action or getting started has been a hurdle for you, make it a to start list. What's the first action you can take that's so easy you could trip over it to kickstart the momentum you need to accomplish those things that feel good to have done? All right, I hope this was super helpful for you today. Please get on Instagram at jenna.piche and tell me what you're taking away. I love hearing from each of you. And until next time, may you free up your time so you can truly reinvest it where it matters most. Rooting for you all. See you next time.